Boys, girls, all my chompaholics out there, welcome back to the Robert. I'm Joe. This is Gotham, Season 3, Blood Rush. So, I believe I missed last week's episode. I might have. But, I've been doing this season, and it's been a good season so far. And I think we got another solid episode in Blood Rush. I thought this was a great episode. This episode focused mainly on Barnes, and although this episode wasn't probably the best in the season so far, I think it was a really solid standalone episode. Um, the Barnes storyline is really interesting, and I'm trying to figure out who he is. Um, where we had characters like Fish Mooney, where I'm still trying to figure out who she is. I didn't know if she was kind of an enchantress type thing, or if they're really just going their own way with her. I'm trying to figure that out about Barnes. I thought at first he might become a Solomon Grundy type, and it could still happen with him kind of losing his mind. Maybe he'll just be gone all the way. But with his fixation on Law and Order, there's a certain character from the old Batman cartoon. I tried looking him up before this review, so that way I would know his name, but I can't remember. It was the Guard Master. It was something like that, and he was a villain that tried to get rid of other villains. Um, I believe there's a couple characters like that in the TV shows. I feel like there was one like that in Arrow or something like that. But I feel like that's the type of character he's going to be here. He's a villain who tries to get rid of other villains, but then at the end he says, towards the end he says the whole town needs to essentially go. So who knows with Barnes? Like, it's starting to not make sense at that point. But interesting stuff, right? I mean, Barnes is just, I want to see where it goes with him. And of course, Michael Chiklis is fantastic, and he's doing a great job. The acting on the show is really one of the best right now, in my opinion, on television, in terms of acting. I mean, we saw that especially in this episode with Riddler. Wow, with that whole storyline with Isabella, and I think it was pretty obvious it was going to come this way, that Penguin was going to get rid of her. But just because it was obvious doesn't mean it was wrong, if that makes sense. I think from a storytelling perspective, I'm very, very curious to see where this goes with Riddler and Penguin, where you see the two of them as best friends, and that's kind of how the season ended. How the season began. I see it, the first half of the season at least, ending with them kind of being bitter enemies. And I love that evolution. I love how we've seen their friendship to what eventually became Penguin being in love with Riddler, to probably now Riddler getting pretty pissed that Penguin is responsible for Isabella's death, because Riddler will figure that out. And they always paint these characters in a sympathetic way. For Penguin, for example, you kind of felt bad for him with the whole Riddler thing. You felt bad that Penguin, was in love with him, but he couldn't tell him. You feel bad for Penguin, and now it's kind of flipping. And I feel like I feel bad for Riddler now. It's really wild how they can do that, because they do that with their villains. I would say pretty often in terms of at least Penguin, and now with Riddler, it's just funny how they just in a matter of one episode just completely flopped it. Who you feel bad for. So I love that's some good writing. That you can. I know people make fun of the show all the time for its writing. That's some solid writing, though. If you can really just have a viewer sympathetic for one villain and not for another, and then just completely switch it in a matter of one episode in a competent way, which is what they did here. Fantastic. I think the Riddler Penguin storyline is one of the best right now, because there's a few different storylines going on. The Bruce storyline was not in this episode, which I think is great. So, I mean, this was really just Barnes, and we saw Barnes meet with Mad Hatter, who Mad Hatter is still just great. He's killing it. He's absolutely killing it. Like I said, first season Penguin stole the show, second season Riddler. I think he's stealing the show this season. Mad Hatter is really killing it. um, and he's really taking over in a way that you wouldn't expect like the Mad Hatter to do so, right? Because Mad Hatter is usually such a minor character, but between the writing for the character and just the way he's delivering, Mad Hatter is one to keep your eye on for definitely for this season. And I was glad to see him in even for a minor role in this particular episode. And Jim's back at the as a police officer. So I think that was great because, like I said, throughout this whole season, I thought the storyline they did with him as bounty hunter was great, and it could last for a little while. I think it went on for as long as it needed to. I didn't think it overstayed its welcome, and I didn't think it should have kept going. I think it was perfect how long it went on, and it felt like a natural evolution after watching last week's episode to see him back um, as a police officer. So really, really good storytelling. I feel for this episode, Blood Rush, and for the season so far. It's a great season so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we get next week from Gotham. Let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode. Subscribe because it takes around that much effort to do so. Until next time, you've been trying.